Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Magic 101. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the most iconic elements of the entire Negima franchise, the Pactio system. I summarized it in my Magic video, but there's a whole lot more to it than what I said there. The Pactio system was created to help Western mages cover their weaknesses in battle. It's also the easiest way for a normal person to gain magical abilities. Seriously, if you ever got randomly transported to the Negima universe, the very first thing you should do is call me and tell me how you did it. But the very next thing you should do is find the mage and ask them to make a Pactio with you. Mages without any physical training are extremely vulnerable while they're chanting their spells. Most spells take at least a few seconds to cast, and if they're interrupted mid-chant, they can't complete the spell. Even something as simple as flicking them on the forehead is enough to disrupt their focus. The goal of the Pactio system is to allow a chosen partner to protect the mage while he or she casts their spells. According to legend, Amataru, the first queen of the Ostian royal family, had a brave knight to support her. A statue of them still stands in New Ostia in the magic world. This was the first Pactio. To this day, mages, especially magisters, will still make contracts with partners, or disciples, to support them. There are two major types of contracts in the series: provisional contracts and permanent contracts. A magister will usually have just one permanent partner, but while they're in training, they can make an unlimited number of provisional contracts. All the Pactios Negima makes in the story are provisional. To form a Pactio, or pact, with someone, the mage and the prospective partner just need to stand inside a Pactio circle and kiss. That may sound like a ridiculously easy process, but it is a little more complicated than that. First, it may require a third party to actually draw the Pactio circle. Whenever Neji forms a Pactio, Kama was the one to draw the circle for him. Which makes sense, because he probably doesn't know how to do it himself. But when Evangeline tries to make a Pactio with Karen, he draws it for her too. You would think if anyone would know how to make this thing, it would be Eva. So maybe it doesn't work if you do it for yourself. In the magic world, there are even Pactio brokers, which may support this idea even further. Also, the kiss should be on the lips. You can kiss the forehead or cheek, but then the contract will only produce a fraction of its power. The Pactio system can apparently be pretty picky too. It didn't let Karen make a contract with Evangeline because her curse rejected her. And initially at least, Chachamaru couldn't form one, presumably because she didn't have a soul. Though in that case, Neji was able to force the situation with magic. But we'll save the theories about that for another time. In Yuki Holder, we learn a new way to form Pactios that doesn't involve kissing. There's a special scroll designed specifically for this. Once it activates, a magic circle will appear somewhere on both people's bodies. Then they just need to press their circles together and wait. The time varies, but it takes an average of about 3 hours. I assume it was created for situations where kissing would be uncomfortable, but depending on where the magic circle shows up, it could be way more awkward than just kissing. But it is useful for special cases where two people are actually incapable of kissing without triggering some sort of magical effect, like with Tota and Kyrie. But considering that Yuki Holder takes place in 2086, and how much magic has advanced by then, I don't think this method was available back in Negima. Once the contract is formed, the results are well worth it. The mage will now be able to send their magic power to their minister or disciple. After receiving their power, the minister's physical abilities go up drastically. Asuna was already pretty strong, but when her contract is active, she can easily shatter a rock with a single kick. They're also surrounded by an aura of magical energy that protects them from physical and magical attacks. With just the power given to her by the Pactio, Asuna, who was more or less a normal person up to this point, was able to take on an army of yokai without too much difficulty. And the Pactio does more than just power a person up. It also brings out any innate abilities they may have. In Asuna's case, it made her magic cancel ability much easier to use, and Konika awakened her natural talent for healing magic. All these benefits are offset by the fact that as long as the contract is active, it will gradually drain the mage's magical energy. It is possible to control the amount of power they send to their contractors, and by reducing the power, they can allow them to fight longer, though this comes at the cost of the minister's attack and defense. Conversely, they can increase the magic to make their partners stronger, but tire them out faster. They can also activate multiple contracts at once, but doing so will drain their magic that much more quickly, so most of the time they just keep them active for a few minutes at most. A mage can also use the contract on themselves to get stronger, but this isn't very efficient compared to regular supplementary magic, and it's implied to cause quite a bit of strain on the user as well, so it's really not advised. As proof of the contract, a special card will appear when the pact is made. This is the Pactio card. Apparently they're pretty valuable, because Camel sells copies of Neji's cards on the Maho net all the time. Each one of them depicts the minister standing against the Pactio circle, in a dramatic pose, holding some kind of weapon or item. These cards contain a whole lot of abstract information about its owner, specifically their color, direction, virtue, astrological sign, and number. What most of these things actually mean are up to interpretation, but in the case of Neji's class at least, the number is just their seat number. Although on Neji's card, his number is 496, which is the sum of the numbers 1 through 31, which just represents how important his 31 students are to him. The cards aren't just for show though, they actually have a lot of different functions. First, the Magister can use them to activate their partner's abilities, and while the Magister holds the originals, the Minister has their own copy, which they can use to activate their powers even when their master isn't around. Second, they can be used for telepathic communication. To contact their partner, the Magister or Minister only has to put the card to their forehead and say, telepathia. But this communication is only one way. For their partner to talk back to them, they also have to touch their foreheads with their cards to enchant telepathia. On top of that, it can also be blocked very easily, or even disrupted by natural mana in the environment. So it's honestly probably easier to just use a cell phone. The Master can also use Pactio cards to summon their partners to their location. If they hold up the card and chant Evocium Vos, Latin for come forth, a magic circle will appear, and then the Minister will pop out of it. Now I don't know if the Minister can initiate the teleportation themselves, or if they have to rely on the Masters to summon them, but they have no ability to stop the summoning, as shown when Neji summoned Asuna while she was in the shower. And it has a maximum range of 5 to 10 kilometers. I imagine the exact distance depends on the power of the mage, and the communication function probably has a similar range as well. The most commonly used function of the Pactio cards by far is summoning artifacts. Every single contractor is assigned their own personal magic artifact that can be called forth with their card. All they need to do is hold out their card and say a deed, then it will transform into whatever item they are holding on the card, and it returns to the card when they say a beat. This artifact can be anything from swords to fans to guns to violins, but whatever it is, it will always reflect the personality of its owner, and they usually have some type of special ability. For example, Haruna is an artist, and her artifact is a magic sketchbook that brings anything she draws on it to life. Asakura is a news reporter, so she gets a set of remote-controlled spy drones, and so on. And while this doesn't appear to be true for all artifacts, some of them are capable of changing form. Asuna's Ensis Exorcisans can shift from a giant paper fan to an actual sword, and Nautica's Diarium Aegis usually takes the form of a diary that can just read minds, but she can split it into 4 smaller books to keep track of the thoughts of up to 4 people at a time. I will cover the artifacts in more detail when I make videos on individual characters, but I will say, it's unclear exactly where they come from. Fate recognized Nautica and Natsumi's artifacts, so we know they weren't just created when they made their Pactios. But where they were before then, or how exactly they came into their possession, is never explained. And he supposedly created Shiore's artifact. But we do know that if the mage dies, then the card loses all of its power. and the artifact can no longer be summoned. The card itself still remains, but a lot of the details disappear, and it becomes completely non-functional. In addition to the artifact, you can also store multiple outfits in the Pactio card. The artifact and outfit will automatically be equipped when summoned, which is a pretty clear reference to either Super Sentai or Magical Girl anime, both of which are infamous for their transformation sequences. I said before that kissing somewhere other than the lips won't be very effective, but it will still create a Pactio card. Sort of. The card art of these botched Pactios are very poorly drawn, and any info on it is extremely sarcastic. But I gotta say, they are pretty cute. Neji has made these Pactios when Asuna and Konoha kissed him on the cheek, and when a handful of other girls kissed his clones in Kyoto. While they are functional Pactio cards, they don't provide much power compared to a proper contract, and don't seem to provide artifacts. Very little is actually known about permanent Pactios, or true contracts. Most mages only have one, but it is possible to make more if the mage is strong enough. We don't know exactly how permanent contracts are formed, but it's implied a few times to be, quite a bit more intimate than just kissing. All the effects of a permanent contract seem to be the same as a regular Pactio, but with the added benefit of extremely reduced aging for the ministers. And while it's never stated, I have to assume that any provisional Pactio the mage has previously made will become inactive once he forms a permanent one. There is another type of contract that doesn't really get much focus in the manga, and that's the doll contract. This is the type of contract that Evangeline has with Chachimaru, and as the name implies, it is used to make pacts with inanimate objects rather than living people. The defining trait of this kind of contract is that it does not require a soul. Eva has made contracts with Chachimaru, who is a robot, and all her other puppets and marionettes. The mage supplies the doll with magical energy to power them, similar to a regular Pactio. The difference being that without magic power, the doll won't move. But the magic doesn't even have to come from their master. In fact, it seems like anyone can charge them up. And in Chachimaru's case, it seems like she can be very, let's say, sensitive to it. The only other thing I can think to say about it is that they don't produce artifacts or Pactio cards. It is totally possible to form Pactios with two masters. Satsuna has done it, and got two different Pactio cards, with two different artifacts. A lot of fans have suggested that her Pactio with Konoha yielded a much stronger artifact because she's closer to Konoha than she is to Neji. And while that is a reasonable assumption, it's just not true. After the school festival, Albiero revealed that he had a dozen old Pactio cards from dead masters, and they were all identical, with the same artifact on it. This pretty much confirms that the Pactio card is dependent on the individual, not the magister. Al got all his Pactios as an adult, and he probably hasn't changed much since. Whereas Satsuna is a radically different person at the end of the series than she was when she made her contract with Neji. In between, she has become close friends with Neji and Asuna, rekindled her relationship with Konoha, and accepted that it's okay for her to be happy. She's stronger as a person, so she receives a stronger artifact. Or that's my theory at least. I think that covers just about everything. But as always, if I left anything out, feel free to let me know. Pactios are a really fun part of Negima. So much so that Akamatsu designed official Pactio cards for all of Neji's students, even the ones that never made contracts in the series. What's even cooler is that most of the cards were released with the limited edition volumes of the manga. Not to brag or anything, but my own Pactio card collection is pretty respectable, if I do say so myself. But if anyone has Zazier's card, please message me. I should probably mention that the second anime, that is Negima ! Had their own version of the Pactio system, called Neo Pactios. If you're wondering why I didn't talk about them, it's because I don't care about the anime. Like, at all. If enough of you guys really want me to, then I guess I could talk about it in the future, but this video is about the OG Pactio system, so I think I'll leave you with this. Thank you so much for watching, If there's anything you want me to cover in a future video, just leave it in the comments. And subscribe so you don't miss it. See you all next time, and remember, a little bit of courage is the real magic.